Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Chambers in London, and I'm looking at a book from Elgar, which is one of their series again, covering intellectual property matters. This book is a small book, it's not a big one, it's very much, I think, for students. It's called A Primer on International Copyright and Related Rights. It's been written by Jorgen Blomqvist. I hope I pronounced that name correctly. And the title that Elizabeth and I have given it, Elizabeth's my wife, and we wrote these reviews together. We discussed the book, and she and I have come up with the title, An Ideal Primer on International Copyright for Students and Practitioners. I'll show you the book quickly. There's the front cover there, spine, and then the back of it. You've got quite a lot of detail there, which you can see. It's a very light book, it's a paperback, runs to 260 odd pages. There is the detail in the index, which you've got right at the back. You've got references right at the back again. It's a slightly different structure from some books. You've got chapter headings, the settlement of disputes there, for instance, and a little bit of suggestions for further study. Let's go to something a bit more detailed. You do have some footnotes at the bottom there. You haven't got paragraph numbering as such with this. Let me find the beginning. Here we go, public performance. There we go. You see, you start off with a little introduction and go launch straight into it, and it links very much into the various agreements, international agreements, conventions, and so forth. The front of it, there we go. You've got a little point there, Professor Blomqvist. Then you've got the contents themselves, split into parts 1 and 2, and then part 3. Do have a look also at the preface, which is very, very useful because it sets out what it's all about, and then the abbreviations, which I think are also very helpful. Again, it starts off with a general introduction, which I think will be helpful to students in particular. Now, as I said, we've given this a review. It's not a heavy book, but I think it's a book that's very readable. And we've said this, time was when you had a book or other item of intellectual property under copyright, it would all too often, or perhaps oversimplify and apply only within your own country. However, with an expanding global economy in which the work of authors, artists, musicians and so forth is read and performed across international boundaries, like YouTube, like anything you've got with the web, this unfair and complicated and impractical system has had to change. The international copyright being a very important area for many, many people. So this new title on international copyright from Elgar is therefore especially useful for students of IP wishing to enhance their understanding of the often complex subject of copyright from the international perspective. International lawyers will appreciate that the focus is on international law only, excluding by necessity regional laws on copyright. Obviously you've got your own member state, or whatever you want to call it, individual state rules and laws and so forth, but so this is giving the international focus and flavour. Written by a Danish academic, Jorgen Blomqvist, the book aims to familiarize students as well as practitioners and interested readers with the various international multilateral treaties in the field which are in force, including the Berne Convention. It includes also things like the Rome Convention, ACTA, TRIPS, and many more. Interestingly, the author mentions ACTA being closely linked to TRIPS. TRIPS being the trade-related aspects of IP rights. Now, the TRIPS agreement obviously is linked in a number of ways, and they're carefully explained. ACTA, which is the Anti-Counterfeiting Agreement, Tokyo, as he points out, only deals with enforcement. Remember that counterfeiting is a very big problem, and one that I know artists are particularly concerned about because of the fact they've done all the work and they see these people sort of copying it and taking it for their own. It's not a nice thing, so it's understandable that you need to have a bit of protection. Beginning with an historic overview of copyright protection, which has been around since the late 15th century, I hasten to add, the author conducts the reader on a journey of informed exploration through the various international norms on copyright and related rights, explaining in a straightforward manner the relevant international treaties, agreements and conventions, including those we've already mentioned a little earlier. And the author presupposes that the student will already have some familiarity with IP and copyright issues, which indicates that the book will be of immense value to those wishing to increase and augment their existing knowledge in this specifically international area, including those aiming to do further research. The book is in fact an excellent research resource with a section containing suggestions for further study at the end of each chapter, and I showed you that for chapter 22. There's only a little set of suggestions, but nevertheless it points you in the right direction. There's frequent footnoting, as I've indicated, no paragraph numbering, and there's a lengthy bibliography and a detailed index, fine index at the back. Let me conclude by saying, as well as practitioners, academics and students, government officials charged with decision-making responsibilities in this area of law will find this impressively scholarly examination of international copyright a useful, indeed an essential purchase, we think. And the publication date is cited at 2014. Just to show it to you again, it's a light book. It may be light, but the content is quite heavy. Let me just show you again. Suggestions for further reading at the back there. Very useful because, again, you've got a little bit of footnoting and you've got quite a lot of detail. They do highlight, by the way, they put them in bolded, the various agreements, conventions and so forth. So, you know, for instance, the Berne Convention there. So it does help. Thank you very much to the author and to Edward Elgar for producing this book. I think it's very good for the academic community and the wider community as well, because this is an area that's going to become much more important, I think, as the century develops. So thank you very much to all concerned. A great contribution. Once again, thanks to Edward Elgar for maintaining such a high standard as well. Bye-bye.